Welcome back to the Austria Comic Con 2025 main stage, and I think Star Wars is a term that you've heard before, and you will hear it a lot of times today because we have our Star Wars special this year. So I'm happy to announce 4 amazing people who worked in the Star Wars franchise. They are Kenny Lee, Mbanefo, Simon J. Williamson, Nick Joseph, and Richard Oldfield. Well, yesterday we talked a lot about how you came to the movies and how you auditioned and how you got your parts. And I would like to build up on that because I've heard actors who say they cannot view themselves on screen and they do not watch their stuff. But I would like to ask every one of you how you felt when the movies were completed and you first saw them and you first saw yourself within them, especially when we start with Nick, who was in the first Star Wars, which was a lot smaller scale production. And I don't know how much of the script you got to read before you played your scene, and then going to the cinema, seeing the entire large scale production, how that felt for you, and whether you then knew, okay, this is going to be big.
Right. Good afternoon, everybody. Oh, there. Thank you. Thank you. I can go home now. Oh, no. What you said?
I forgot.
Yes. Well, at the very beginning, I got a call from my agent, and she said to me, you've got nothing to do in the next few weeks. There's a cheap movie coming up called Star Wars. Would you be interested in doing a couple of days? I said, yes, that's fine, no problem. She said, you'll have to go for an interview. I went to London, saw a couple of guys there, and I didn't know who they were. As I do now, it's George Lucas. And we had the interview, and they said, well, we'll get back to you in a week or so and let you know what's going on. They did, and obviously I got the character in Star Wars, which was name of Arhul Extraphon. I bet you can't say that when you've had a few beers. Anyway, we got down to the makeup and dress, everything else. And first day on the set, we went through the whole scene. It took us virtually the whole day to go through it bit by bit, because I didn't really realize what I had to do until I got there. And then once we did the first day rehearsal, they said, we're going to shoot tomorrow. And the 2 days that I'd supposed to have been doing for the contract turned into 15 days, because they then decided to put another scene in, which was a bit beyond my character's initiation there, because they wanted to do the briefing room. It was just before the war started, because the character that I played, he was a historian, and what he had to do was to sit there, listen to what was going on, and make plans for the characters of the pilots for the battle. And we carried on for this, and eventually we got to the scene where we were shooting for... Hello.
Nice for you to join us, sir.
Anyway, we got to the scene where we started shooting, and the first scene we did a full rehearsal. Came out, doors opened, characters walked down, cut, and then we did the next part where they walked all the way through, cut, and then we did the next part coming up the steps, cut, but we didn't do the last scene completely for the presentation. So George Lucas was happy with all the parts we were doing there, and then he said, we're going to do a shoot now. Right, doors opened, characters walks forward, up the steps. They got up to the steps. I know you're going to laugh now, because you know what I'm going to say. The characters got to the top, and somebody farted. And it was a real big fart. It's a first class. So we had to do that scene 5 times before we could stop laughing at that. Anyway, we finally got it sorted out. And you remember the medal on Yavin which was given? Yes, I did. Did you really? Have we got anybody sitting in the audience? Well, there's the medal of Yavin. That's the actual size, which I had reproduced from the actual medal that I do have. And that was one of the props that were used. And I finally did get hold of that medal. And as I say, these are reproduced from the actual size. That's really what happened for the medal ceremony. But then we went on to do, as I said, the first part of the briefing room. And that was taken for 3 more days, rehearsing. And then, as I say, finally days, I did 15 days all told, which started as 2, which I didn't mind because they paid me extra. And at the end of all that, it paid my mortgage off and the house was mine. Thank you.
But one follow-up. What was then your reaction when you first saw the film, after it was completed? Did you go to the cinema to watch the film? Did you watch it on television later? When did you first see it and how did you react?
Yes, I was invited to the premiere, and that was in London. I was in Tottenham Court Road Cinema in London there, and it all came up, and watching it there towards the end of the movie, and the scene came up for the end of the fight, and thought, that was okay. I could have done that a little bit better, and I could have got myself into shot a bit bigger as well. So you never know with this lot, but it's okay. I mean, I did earn a nice bit of money out of this, and but unfortunately, at the end of the movie, they forgot to put the character up on the credits, but my name never appeared on there. So unfortunately, that's one of the things that happened way back in those times. But today, it never happens. If you've got a character part, you'll put up on the character credits. But all in all, Star Wars now is the biggest family in the world. So thank you to all you lot, guys. Thanks a lot. Do appreciate it.
And let's make the rounds for everyone else. When did you first hear of Star Wars, see anything Star Wars related, and how did you react to it? And how did that influence your decision to then become a part of said franchise?
So, okay. I was gonna say, okay. So for me, I started in much years later after these guys. These guys are like my idols, you know what I mean? So if it wasn't for you guys, you know what I mean, I wouldn't be here. So I just want to give a round of applause to these 3 because they came from the original Star Wars movie. So, you know what I mean? So, you know, to be on stage with these guys, it really is an honor. So I started in episode 7, The Force Awakens, as a First Order Stormtrooper. And as I was telling the story yesterday, I just got I was contacted from my agent, saying that they were looking for actors who were athletic, who had good stamina, who were able to follow military instructions, know how to use firearms. And so I had a little bit of firearms training of my own, but then I had to learning how to wear the costume, being able to run, being able to use the firearms, taking instructions, learning how to pick up choreography as well. So it was a great experience going through like a boot camp course, training, and so that's how it started. And at the time, my agent didn't even tell me it was Star Wars. It was just saying, I was just told, it was a big movie franchise where they need good actors who have sort of like special skills in firearms and have any kind of military or law enforcement experience. So after going through the boot camp course, I was contacted by my agent. And they'll tell me, oh, great, they want you to come in for a costume fitting. And I was like, okay, so what's the costume for? It's for a stormtrooper. And I'm like, well, the only stormtroopers I know is in Star Wars, so is it? And I was like, yeah, it's Star Wars. And so that blew my mind, because obviously I grew up watching Star Wars, right from the beginning. So I couldn't have started on the best movie franchise, I couldn't think of anything better, so it was a great honor for me. Now, actually seeing it on screen, it was quite surreal, because I was thinking to myself, because I'm going to be wearing a helmet, there's no way people are going to tell the difference between all the other dozens of stormtroopers. But what was the most, how can I put it? It was so overwhelming for me when the first behind-the-scenes trailer came out for Episode 7, Force Awakens, and the trailer was like less than maybe 3 minutes long. And I was watching it, I was just thinking, oh yeah, it looks great seeing on set. And then there was a quick clip of me with my helmet off, talking to the camera, raising my fist and all that, and I'm like, oh, that's me. And I was literally just screaming, And I called up my mom. I said, Mom, I'm in Star Wars. I'm in the trailer. And I was calling up my friends. I was calling up everybody I knew. I was like, look, go onto YouTube. They've just released the behind-the-scenes trailer for Force Awakens, and I'm in it. I'm in a minute. So for me, it was one of the best moments of my life, and especially starting so young in this career, so early in my career, to be seen in, even though it was just a few seconds. I was like, oh my God, I'm in the behind-the-scenes trailer for Star Wars, and I couldn't believe that was going to happen. Like I said, I'm a stormtrooper. I was going to have my helmet on. I thought there's no way I'm going to be able to tell between who's who. But to have that, it was amazing. And then finally going and seeing it in the cinema when it was released, it was just amazing how I just saw how, realistic everything was. Being seen on the Millennium Falcon, and then seeing all the other actors and like Carrie Fisher, Harrison Ford, and John Boyega, who I worked with as well. I enjoyed it so much, And to be a part of something so huge, it's a real honor to me. So yeah.
Simon, how about?
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I think we all grew up with Star Wars. Mm-hmm. So I have a follow-up, but let's hear from Simon first. Your first contact with Star Wars, and how it came to be that you then joined the Force, basically.
Well, obviously I saw the first film in the cinema when it came out, and I think I hadn't seen the second one, The Empire Strikes Back, but I'd just been doing a film called Dark Crystal, which involved a lot of creature work, and that was shot at Elstree Studios. And about 6 months after finishing shooting Dark Crystal, they were about to shoot Return of the Jedi. And because of Dark Crystal, I didn't even need to audition for the role, because I'd done similar work in Dark Crystal. It was a straight offer. Would you like to be a puppeteer on the next Star Wars movie? And of course I said yes. And I even agreed terms, weekly terms, the money, signed the contract, and they said, well, come down to Elstree Studios, for half a day, we'll, show you the set. So I went to Elstree Studios, and I was met in reception by a guy called Stuart Ziff, who was kind of, I think, the coordinator of the animatronics creature department. And he sort of took me first of all to Jabba's palace set, which wasn't properly finished, and then to the amazing Ewok village, all those massive redwood trees and a village in the middle of it. And he kept on saying things like, well, if you get this job, we'll be shooting this here and this here. I thought, okay, well, as far as I'm concerned, I already have the job. But then I went on to the Ewok stage, and then, because it was the same film studio, Elstree, a lot of the crew from Dark Crystal were already at work on Return of the Jedi. So they said, oh, Simon, how are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. Are you on this one? I said, yeah, I am. And by the end of the day, Stuart was kind of looking me out the side of his head, oh, I guess you are on this movie already. I said, yes, I am, yes. So that was quite fun. But there was a moment where I thought, hang on, I've signed a contract, and they're going to take it away from me. They can't, you know, so that was wonderful. And as for the first time you see yourself on screen in the role, of course, with a complicated movie like this, it takes a long time for them to edit and do all the post-production. So it's kind of a year after you've finished the shooting. There are elements of it you've forgotten. And there's also the possibility, because I played a number of characters, not just Max Rebo, there's always the possibility that some or all of them might be cut. So, you know, it's a kind of nervous time. And there was a magazine that came out shortly before the movie was about to open called, I think it's called Stills magazine. And there was a big photograph of Max Rebo on the front cover. So I thought, phew, I know Max Rebo at least is still in the movie. And so also I shared a cover for the first time ever with Sean Connery in Never Say Never Again and David Bowie in Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. So that was a big feather in my cap. And of course, the other thing is, because Star Wars is so secretive about the plot and what's in it, they don't want spoilers to get out, you don't get given a full script. In fact, I don't think I was even given a bit of script for the scenes I'm in. They just tell you what it's all about. So when I saw the premiere at a big cinema in Marble Arch, there's stuff that absolutely I didn't know existed that absolutely knocked me out. And that was particularly the long speed biker chase through the California redwoods that was just out of this world. So it's just wonderful a year later to see the work you've done a year before and how it turns out.
Thank you, Richard.
What was the question?
The question was your first time seeing Star Wars and how it impacted your life at that point and your decision to then become a part of the franchise or family, or was it just a happy accident and you didn't even see the first one when it came out?
I think like a lot of you who are Star Wars fans remember the first time you ever saw the film, the first Star Wars film you see, when you saw those incredible credits that come over your head and the music. And part of that was like completely unique from anything I'd ever seen, plus the spacecrafts coming like from a distance and disappearing behind you. I think in cinema, nobody at the time, this was in the 80s, had ever seen anything quite like that. And I saw the first Star Wars film in New York City when I was working there a little bit. And when I was in England, when I was in London, and got asked to do a part in the second Star Wars film, The Empire Strikes Back, I was immediately excited about doing it. I had a normal audition. It was a normal acting role, which a lot of us North American actors in the UK got on US productions. So you were guaranteed a line and a screen credit, and you got a little bit better daily pay rate, but you didn't really have a script. They didn't really, you went there and you got given the line and you did the scene and that was it. And I was quite fortunate in the line that I was given. 2 fighters against a Star Destroyer has somehow become this sort of iconic line that's drifted through the Star Wars universe and has allowed me to come and do these lovely conventions and sort of meet all your fans. I did see the premiere, which was in Leicester Square in London, and I feel very fortunate to have been in part of the Star Wars family from an early part of it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Actually, I would like to go beyond Star Wars for a change, because there is another very big franchise that we all grew up with, that you three were actually part of. You already told us you were on the poster of Never Say Never Again. Nick was a part of The Spy Who Loved Me as an armory officer, but what I found most interesting, because I like to do this thing where I ask people things they have never been asked before and talk about movies nobody else would dare to talk about, because I like watching smaller scale indie movies. And I found in Richard's IMDb that you were in a female James Bond ripoff called Golden Lady, directed by one of cinema's,
How did you ever see Golden Lady?
Larraz. And I would like to, working in the bigger movies, but what especially can you tell us about this maybe very chaotic shoot?
Well, Golden Lady was in those days a risque, these days very, very, you can't even call it, it was below soft porn. But in the 90s, as a young actor, you got a lot of work. There were a lot of fairly risque films, which were never very great films, but you did to make a living, because I was mainly a stage actor, and to support, which was very badly paid, and these small indie films paid much better than stage acting. But doing something like Golden Lady, the only thing I remember, we did it, I don't know if you remember the shot where I was killed in the lift. I die in most of the films that I'm in. This was done in the Ritz Hotel in London, which is a very fancy hotel. And they made us up in the lift, and when the lift would come down, the doors would open, I'd be there lying dead. And unfortunately, people kept pressing for the lift, and it kept going down, and normal people would see me lying there, and you can't move because the artificial blood they put on you dries, and so it would crack. So that's the sort of the story of that one. But yeah, in those days, doing these, I did a lot of very bad films, but it didn't really hurt your career. So there you go.
And you were in Tobe Hooper's Life Force, which was an amazing movie.
Life Force?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a classic.
Yes.
Yeah, with with the, what's his name? Again, played the astronaut who went up to rescue the naked vampire lady, and got killed in that fairly early on as well. But yeah, a lot of those small indie films, I've done too many to actually count. But you do, you know, what you do as an actor. I also did that infamous film with Koo Stark. You remember that one?
Yes,
yeah,
Emily.
Yeah, I know. I was the love interest in that, but and I did a lot of very bad television. But I also did some good theater work, which I'm proud of.
Thank you. Another big name for conventions is, of course, Doctor Who, and Nick was in 6 episodes of Doctor Who between 1979 and 85, and I think your best known role is from the story Terminus, the season 20 episode with Pete Davison as the 5th Doctor. What can you tell us about your experience working on as many different characters on many different episodes of Doctor Who?
Yes, I did 3 different Doctors. I had Tom Baker, 2 with Peter Davison, and 1 with Colin Baker. But Terminus with Peter Davison, that's the one where I'd caught this disease, and they were going to terminate me and throw me down the they had a big shoot, and we presumably it was like a big fire at the bottom. But I had to fight to get away from, I can't remember the guy's name now. What was his character?
I forgot.
No,
I'm very sorry.
It's too long ago now. I was only 4 years old anyway. That's
yeah.
But Terminus was a good one for me. I had so many close-ups in this, but I don't know about what you actually saw on there, but it took us, I think it was about a day and a half to do all the close-ups on this one. It was quite a good character in this one. Again, with Doctor Who, you never actually know what you're going to do, because sometimes the director will change what is actually on the script. And again, then you've got to start rehearsing that particular part again. But with Terminus, it was fine. It was quite a good one, because there was so many acting in that bit, and it came to parts where I had to improvise, and I thought, crikey, this is going back to my days in drama school again. But all in all, really, Terminus was nice. It was really good. And what was the other one I did? Black Orchid.
I would need to look it up. I noted down Terminus because it was the biggest one, and I remember that episode, and I found it amazing.
Yeah, well, the other one was Black Orchid with Peter Davison, where we had to play cricket, and it was where I had to bowl to Peter as he was waiting there to come through in Black Orchid. And unfortunately for Peter, at my younger days, I did play for Essex as a junior, as a bowler, and he couldn't hit the ball because it was coming down too fast. So again, the director said, well, we're going to have to tone the bowling down a bit so Peter can hit the ball. So this is we did, and as he hit the ball, it sailed so high it came down right through the window, the building facing us, and that's when we all thought, hello, who's going to pay for that? But that was a nice one. And Colin Baker, that was nice. Mark of the Rani. Do you remember Mark of the Rani? No.
It's actually very sad, because many of the old Doctor Who classic episodes were never dubbed in German. And I think it was only the 6th and 7th Doctor that originally came out on TV in the 90s. So the 7th was the first that was dubbed into German. Then they added the 6th, but I think we have like 10% of the first 5 Doctors in actual German dub versions, because as big as it was in the UK, I have no understanding why it never went over the big pond towards us. But it's an amazing franchise, so I always take the chance to talk about it when I can.
The other things, you won't remember this, or possibly not even know about it, was Blake 7. That's another big one. Oh, I've got one fan. Actually, Blake 7, if you don't mind me saying so, is coming back out again, and they're going to go through the episodes. And actually next week I'm appearing in Newcastle in London. In England. Where is it? England. North of England, yes. Can't even remember where I live now. Yes, we have a big celebration coming out next week in Newcastle, and they're going to go through the 2 episodes that I did there.
Because otherwise I would like to continue with Kenny in that case, because you've basically ticked a lot of boxes of the biggest and most influential franchises one could be in. You have House of the Dragons, you have the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you have Indiana Jones, Jurassic World, Batman, Fast and the Furious, Star Wars, a lot of stuff, DC, Marvel, Kingsman. Is there anything that you have basically on your bucket list, another big franchise that you want to be a part of? Maybe it's James Bond, Doctor Who, or something else?
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. Definitely James Bond. Yeah. I definitely love to get into that. Doctor Who as well. That's definitely something I definitely want to get into. I can't think of anything else. I'll probably, maybe if they make another new trilogy of like Transformers or something like that, then yeah, I would definitely want to get onto that. So, because I grew up, you know, playing with the toys, you know what I'm saying? So that would be another one that can tick off my bucket list. But yeah, so far I'm honored and I've been blessed that I've been able to work on a fairly large amount of, you know, big movie franchise, and I'm still growing as an actor. So yeah, fingers crossed, and you know, and I'm holding on to my faith that I'll get to the level where I want to be.
Now is your chance to reveal that you're going to be the next James Bond. that would be amazing. I think the internet would blow up.
Wouldn't it though? That would be the secret of the year, you know, if I was to announce that. But who knows? Who knows what the future may hold? So yeah.
Simon, you mentioned working with Jim Henson, which is one of the most amazing puppeteer legends, one has to say. And you did the Dark Crystal, but you also worked on the Muppets together with him. I noted down the Great Muppet Caper in '81, in '92 the Christmas Carol, and in '96 the Treasure Island. What can you tell us about working with Jim Henson on basically his baby, the Muppets, and operating these puppets, working on the franchise?
Yeah, well, while we were rehearsing Dark Crystal, because Jim knew, we were a different kind of, we were body puppeteers rather than the regular Muppet people who did the Skeksis in the Dark Crystal. But he knew there would be sequences in Dark Crystal where they'd need sort of Muppet-like characters who were the pod people, and there were a lot of them. So he wanted to make sure that our puppeteering skills were up to scratch. So every week on a Friday, Jim would give us body puppeteers, the people playing the Mystics and the Garthim in Dark Crystal, a special workshop in puppeteering with a large mirror, and at the end of the day there's a banqueting table full of food and drink. So we had the pleasure of being taught puppeteering once a week by an absolute master puppeteer. And so we did the pod people in Dark Crystal along with other regular Muppeteers doing that role. And then Dark Crystal finished shooting on a Friday, and on the Monday morning was the first day. No, I've got it wrong. The Muppet Caper finished filming on the Friday, and on the Monday they started shooting Dark Crystal. So in the intervening period, while we were still training on Dark Crystal, we got to do a couple of sequences where they needed a lot of Muppet performers in the Great Muppet Caper. So basically, the two jobs were done side by side. And then the Henson organization departed after Dark Crystal to go back to America to shoot Muppet stuff in New York and Fraggle Rock in Toronto. So they left the UK entirely, where they'd been for a long while. But then a few years later, they wanted to do Muppet Christmas Carol. So they came back over, went to Shepperton Studios, and when they needed extra Muppeteers, they called on people such as myself. And the same thing happened pretty much on Muppet Treasure Island. So I don't count myself as a Muppeteer. I count myself as a kind of second-grade Muppet person when they needed lots of Muppet extras. But it's the great value of being personally trained by Jim Henson, all for free.
Thank you. I would say thank you so much for joining us with our Star Wars special this year at the Austria Comic Con, and give a huge round of applause to Richard Oldfield, to Nick Joseph, to Simon J. Williamson, and to Kenny Lee Mbanefo. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much. Thank you.